Alright, what's going on, boxing fans? Julian Williams here at the distance. Got video for you guys. This is a fantasy matchup. Hector Camacho, Roy Jones Jr. This one was requested to me. And overall, I will say this straight up. This is a stupid fantasy matchup. And I'll be the first one to criticize it. This is a stupid fantasy matchup. Hector Camacho by no means was in his prime at 160. By no means was in his prime. And at 160, he was slower. He was, he looked chubby at 160. He wasn't as fast. Like I said, wasn't as fast. His mobility was limited, so he had to make up for it. And he had to come forward, and he actually had to chase fighters at 160 compared to at 130, 135, and 140, where he was more, where he was more mobile. He was more mobile and kind of made opponents come towards him. He had to be aggressive at 160, and not only that, but he didn't have much power at 130, 135. Excuse me, 135. He didn't have that much power, so more than likely he wouldn't translate at 160. So he had to adjust and accommodate his style, and he had to come forward more. And he was a lot slower. He had to maintain a faster pace of fighting. And also, 160, and also 160 was kind of a division with young fighters. You had young Glenn Johnson and Bernard Hopkins and James Toney and Nigel Benn and Gerald McClellan and Julian Jackson and Roy Jones Jr. And he had like a lot of young fighters when he was moving, around the time he was moving up to 160. I think he moved to 160 in like the early to mid 90s when these guys were. And I could be wrong. These guys could have been fighting at 168 by that time. He was able to move up. But my own opinion is this: I think that Hector Camacho should have never fought above 147. That's only my opinion. I don't think he should have fought a day over or a pound over 147. And that's because, like I said, the style at which he fights, he uses his legs a lot, and he uses his legs a lot. And but then he had to fight aggressively behind the jab, and he had to come forward and box a lot more than he did as a 135 pound fighter. At 135, he was quick, a bit elusive, used a lot of movement, was very mobile, but at 160 he was a whole lot different, was a lot slower, as I mentioned. But Roy Jones Jr. was much quicker at 160. He was quicker. He had a lot of power, and still carried the power up to 175. But he was quicker. He had a lot of power. Very athletic, as I mentioned, and also the punch that. And I just think that Roy Jones would probably take out Hector Camacho in probably 7 to 8 rounds. He wouldn't systematically break him down, but overall, the one punch that Hector Camacho at 160 was always open to was the left hook, which Roy Jones throws very well. Like, all Roy Jones has to do is come in quickly and lead in with the left hook, and probably throw it multiple times, and Camacho's done. Roy Jones at 160 was much better than Hector Camacho at 160. It's that simple. Roy Jones was just much better than Camacho at 160. Like I said, quicker, had more power, and also athletic, and even his legs are faster, so he could beat him to the position a lot better than Hector Camacho could have gotten to the position. He probably would have been where Hector Camacho wanted to go before Hector Camacho, because he kind of telegraphed his movement. And his movement at 160 was a lot more calculated. So Roy Jones kills Hector Camacho at 160 pounds with no problem. So like I said, stupid fight. It's not really a fantasy matchup. It's just Hector Camacho getting slaughtered by Roy Jones. But the thing I will respect about Camacho is he did accommodate his style at 160. He did accommodate that style and changed it up, stood tall, and came forward and fought behind the jab. And also was sneaking the left hand, straight left hand. But other than that, Roy Jones is a superior guy at 160. compared to Camacho. So I'm going to go with Roy Jones taking him out in probably less than 8 rounds. So anyway, peeps, I'm out here. That was the distance. Thanks for watching. Peace.